When I discovered that my father had secretly established a trust fund exclusively for my entitled sister, I finally drew the line by refusing to fund their extravagant vacation home and additional financial favors. A few weeks later, without any greeting or concern, he texted me a terse reminder: the property taxes are due. I calmly responded, explaining that mutual respect and support had long been abandoned. How could you be so selfish? My father yelled, his face red as he stormed across our vacation home's living room by Bear Lake. Your sister needs that money for her new business venture. You've got more than enough. I stood there, speechless, still holding the property tax bill in my hands. What was meant to be a relaxed Sunday dinner had turned into an interrogation about why I wasn't contributing enough. I'm Louise Walsh, 33, and I built my career as a self-taught day trader. I wasn't born into money. Everything I have is the result of countless sleepless nights studying market patterns and making calculated risks. For the past 5 years, I quietly paid the property taxes on my parents' vacation home, covered my younger sister Megan's car payments, and funded family vacations without complaint. It was my way of giving back to the family that raised me. Or so I thought. Dad, I've been covering everything for years, I finally said, my voice steadier than I felt. The property taxes, Megan's business trips, Mom's medical bills from what insurance wouldn't cover, I never asked for anything in return. But I can't keep doing this forever. My mother sat silently on the couch, eyes fixed on her folded hands, refusing to look at me. That hurt more than any shouting ever could. We gave you everything growing up, Dad snapped, ignoring my words completely. And now when we need you, you're abandoning us while your sister is finally building a future for herself. That's when I saw it, a corner of an envelope peeking out from under a magazine on the coffee table. I caught the words trust fund and Megan Walsh in bold letters. My stomach sank. I reached for the envelope before Dad could stop me. Louise, that's private, he barked, but it was too late. My hands trembled as I scanned the document, reading the cold, legal language that revealed the truth. Dad had set up a substantial trust fund exclusively for Megan. The same father who had insisted there wasn't enough money to help with my college tuition, forcing me to work multiple jobs while studying, was now expecting me to fund a luxury lifestyle while secretly ensuring my sister's financial security. When were you going to tell me about this? I whispered, a cold clarity washing over me. Suddenly, everything made sense. The favoritism, the differing expectations, and the endless demands masquerading as family obligations. Dad snatched the document from my hand, but the damage was done. The numbers were etched in my mind. $350,000 set aside for Megan, with additional provisions for future contributions, all while I was constantly told that family finances were tight. You weren't supposed to see that, he muttered, folding the paper and shoving it back into the envelope. Clearly, I replied, my voice hollow. I guess that explains why you never helped with my student loans growing up. The pattern had always been there. While Megan got dance lessons and a car for her 16th birthday, I took the bus until I saved enough from my after-school job to buy used Honda. When college came, Megan went to a private university with family support, and I scraped by on scholarships and a 30-hour-a-week job at a local coffee shop. I had always chalked it up to changing financial circumstances or different parenting methods, but now I couldn't deny what lay before me. My parents clearly valued Megan more. Sweetheart, my mother finally said in that gentle, lulling tone I now recognized as manipulation, your sister needs more help than you do. You've always been so independent, so capable. We're proud of how well you've done on your own. The twisted logic took my breath away. I was being punished for my success, while Megan was rewarded for her dependence. I recalled all the times I asked for help, when I was juggling 2 jobs in college, barely sleeping, when my car broke down and I couldn't afford repairs, when I needed a security deposit for my first apartment, and every time. You said you couldn't help because the money was earmarked for Megan. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Investment decisions aren't that simple, Louise. We had to think about the future, just not my future. I thought of all the payments I'd made over the years, the $8,700 annual property taxes on the vacation home for 5 straight years, the countless other expenses, and even $122,000 in roof repairs last summer, while they secretly built a nest egg for Megan. The taxes are due next month, Dad said, abruptly changing the subject as he slid the bill across the table. And even though the Homeowners Association had raised their fees again, he still expected me to cover them. I stared at him, incredulous. After everything I'd just discovered, he had the nerve to ask for more money. In that moment, something shifted inside me, a fundamental change. I had been played for a fool, but that ended today. I'll take care of it, I said quietly, picking up the bill. Dad visibly relaxed, missing the resolve in my eyes. The drive back to my downtown Salt City apartment was a blur. The snow-capped mountains, which once brought me peace, now loomed like silent accusers against the darkening sky. I felt like such a fool. Once home, I ignored my ringing phone. Surely Dad was calling to check if I'd paid the property tax bill, and pulled out my laptop with trembling fingers. I opened a folder I had meticulously maintained for years, never imagining I'd need it. Titled, Financial Contributions Family, it detailed thousands of dollars I'd poured into my family's needs over the past 5 years. Property tax payments, $43,500, Megan's car payments, $17,682, Mom's uncovered medical expenses for knee surgery, $8,200, family vacations, disguised as gifts, $222,450 total. $13,810 over 5 years, each digital copy of checks, transfer receipts, and thank you texts now felt like damning evidence of my naivety. My phone pinged with a text from Megan. Dad says you're being difficult about the taxes. Don't be selfish, Louise. I laughed bitterly. Of course, she would side with them. After all, she had always been the favored one. Another text came from Dad. We're counting on you for those taxes. Don't let us down. No acknowledgement of everything I had already contributed, just the expectation that I would continue financing their lifestyle while they built my sister's future. The next morning, I called in sick to my home office and drove to see Joseph Kleen, the financial advisor who had helped me build my investment portfolio when I started making serious money 3 years ago. This is quite a list, he said, reviewing my spreadsheet with widened eyes. And you've never asked for repayment from your family? I just wanted to help, I said simply. Joseph removed his glasses and fixed me with a serious look. Louise, your generosity is admirable, but this isn't sustainable. You're jeopardizing your own financial future while enabling dependence. This isn't healthy for any of you. I know that now, I replied quietly. I just discovered they set up a substantial trust fund for Megan while leaving me to shoulder all these expenses. Joseph's expression darkened. That changes things. For the next 2 hours, we developed a plan. I needed notarized documentation, formal receipts, and a full accounting of every dollar I'd contributed. Get me everything, I insisted. Joseph then mentioned his colleague, a forensic accountant, Victor Hernandez, who specialized in financial disputes. Are you really ready to go down this road? Joseph asked as our meeting ended. He warned, family conflicts over money get ugly fast. I thought of the trust fund document, the years I was told there wasn't enough money to help me, while Megan got everything. I remembered the property tax bill my father casually shoved across the table, expecting me to handle it. I'm sure, I said, my voice firmer than it had been in days. It was time they understood exactly what I'd been giving all these years, and what would happen when that stopped. A week after discovering the trust fund, I sat in Victor Hernandez's office, surrounded by piles of paper. He was meticulously sorting through my financial contributions to the Walsh family over the past 5 years. Your records are incredibly detailed, Victor remarked, scanning bank statements and receipts. Most people wouldn't keep such complete records, but my day trading background had taught me to track every transaction, every transfer, every expense with precision. So, what's the total damage? I asked, steeling myself for the answer. Victor slid a document across his desk. The final tally is even worse than your initial estimates, $11,874.50. And the extra $4,915 comes from interest you lost by redirecting funds from your own investments, he explained, basing his numbers on my portfolio's performance over that period. I nodded, feeling a mix of vindication and grief. The numbers made the betrayal undeniable. What now? I asked. That depends on what you want, Victor replied. If you're seeking legal restitution, we could build a case, though family financial matters are messy without written agreements. If you're just documenting everything for closure or leverage in family discussions, we can prepare a comprehensive financial statement. I chose the second option for now. While Victor prepared the documents, my phone buzzed with texts. Dad, haven't received the tax payment yet. The due date is near, and Megan, Dad says you're being difficult with money after all they've done for you. I silenced my phone, letting them wonder. 3 days later, I received a notarized financial statement from Victor's office. The document detailed every cent I'd contributed to my family over the past 5 years, broken down by recipient, purpose, and date. It even included the calculation of lost investment opportunities and a statement from Joseph Kleen verifying the analysis. That same evening, my phone rang. It was my mother, Louise. Your father is worried about the property tax payment, she began carefully, hiding the tension in her voice. It's due next week. I know when it's due, Mom. So, will you handle it? You've always been reliable with these things, she replied casually, as if it were an open secret. That tone ignited something inside me. 5 years of payments with not a single thank you. 5 years of giving while they secretly built up my sister's nest egg. Not this time, I murmured. After a long pause, she hesitated. What do you mean? I'm not paying the property taxes or any other family expenses anymore, I said quietly. But we're counting on you. The money is already allocated elsewhere, she countered, her voice edging with panic. To Megan's trust fund? The words hung in the air. Another silence followed. Your father told me you saw that, she finally said. Louise, you have to understand. I understand perfectly. I've contributed nearly $120,000 to this family over the past 5 years, while you and Dad said there wasn't enough to help with my education or housing. I've been financing your lifestyle while you secured Megan's future. That's not fair, she protested weakly. It isn't fair, I agree, and I'm done with it. I ended the call and turned my phone off, knowing the real storm was coming. My father wouldn't let this slide. He always saw my financial support as an obligation, not a gift. The next morning, I made 3 crucial changes on my laptop. First, I canceled the automatic payment for Megan's car. Second, I removed myself as an authorized payer on all family accounts. Third, I transferred $120,000 from my brokerage account to a new investment fund labeled My Future. For the first time in years, I felt free. The constant weight of family financial expectations lifted from my shoulders. The fallout was swift. By noon, my phone was blowing up with messages. I finally turned it back on during lunch, watching notifications fill my screen. Megan had called 7 times before sending frantic texts. What the hell, Louise? The bank says my car payment was declined. Are you trying to ruin my credit? I have plans this weekend. My father's messages were even more direct. Call me immediately. This is unacceptable behavior. You can't just abandon your responsibilities to this family. I ignored them all, focusing instead on my trading as the volatile markets demanded my full attention. Only after closing my positions did I listen to the single voicemail from my mother. Louise, please, her voice trembled. Your father is beside himself. The property tax notice now includes a late fee, and Megan can't make her car payment. She'll lose her vehicle. We don't understand why you're doing this. Whatever's upsetting you, we can talk about it. Please call us back. There was no mention of the trust fund issue or acknowledgement of my years of financial support, just pressure to resume the old ways. I was drafting a careful response when the building intercom buzzed. The security guard's voice came through. Miss Walsh, your father is here, and he's demanding to see you. I'm not available, I replied, trying to remain calm. He says he won't leave until you come down. I sighed and then said, tell him to call the police if he refuses to leave. Very well, ma'am. 20 minutes later, I received a text from an unknown number. My cousin Tom is here. Just saw Uncle Greg being escorted from your building by security. Are you okay? What's going on? I hadn't spoken to Thomas in months. When I finally texted him back, I'm fine, just dealing with family and money issues, his reply caught me off guard. It's about time you stood up to them, given how they've treated you compared to Megan. I stared at my phone in disbelief. I had always assumed no one else in the family noticed the imbalance. Thomas's validation felt unexpectedly affirming. At 7 p.m., the doorbell rang. I peered through the peephole and saw Megan standing there, arms folded and tapping her foot impatiently. I opened the door, only half letting her in, and she snapped, "What do you want?" "What do I want?" in a tone of incredulity. I replied, "I want you to explain why you're suddenly acting irrationally. My car payment bounced and Dad says you're refusing to pay the lake house taxes. Is that right?" I kept my tone calm. "Why? What's your issue?" she demanded. "The issue is that I've contributed nearly $120,000 to this family over the past 5 years, while Dad has been secretly funneling money into a trust for you," I said. Megan's face shifted quickly from surprise to guilt to defensive anger. "That's different," she insisted. "The trust is meant for my future. I need that security, and you don't. You've always been the smart one. You have your fancy trading career while I'm still trying to find my way at 31. I countered, "Yet while I pay your car payments and fund family vacations, you act like nothing's wrong." Her cheeks reddened. "You never complained because I didn't realize I was being manipulated. I had no idea that while I was emptying my accounts to help everyone, Dad was boosting your trust fund. It's not just pocket change," I murmured. $350,000 is a significant sum." Her eyes widened. "How do you know the exact figure?" I pressed. "I saw the document," I answered. After a moment of silence, Megan tried a softer approach, reaching for my arm. "Look, Louise, I understand you're upset, but we're family. We need your help. Without the tax payment, Dad says we could lose the lake house." I stepped back, breaking her touch. "That's not my problem anymore. Would you really let them lose the vacation home where we spent our summers?" I asked. "How can you be so cold?" I continued, looking deeply at my sister and noticing the lifelong sense of entitlement. She couldn't grasp why I'd decide to stop supporting the family financially. "They have other options," I explained. "They could use some of your trust fund." Megan's face hardened. "That's not fair." I smiled sadly. "No, Megan, nothing about this has ever been fair." I gently but firmly closed the door in her face. 2 weeks went by. The property tax deadline came and passed without any further discussion. I stayed silent with my parents and Megan, instead focusing on my work and personal finances. With Joseph's help, I restructured my investment portfolio so I was no longer hemorrhaging money to the family. The difference was huge. I could significantly boost my retirement contributions and even consider buying a small vacation property of my own. My newfound peace was shattered when I received an email from Uncle Pete, my father's brother. He wrote, "Lise, what's happening with Greg and the lake house? He's asking me for a $10,000 loan to cover property taxes and penalties, and he mentioned something about you refusing to help the family. This doesn't sound like you. I stared at the screen, a bitter laugh escaping me. So Dad was now approaching other family members for money instead of tapping Megan's sacred trust fund. I carefully composed a reply, attaching a PDF summary of my financial contributions over the past 5 years along with a brief explanation of the trust fund situation. Within an hour, Uncle Pete responded, "Holy hell, Louise, I had no idea." No one knew. Greg had been telling everyone he was struggling to help both his daughters equally. This changes everything. The next day, my cousin Thomas called Lise. "There's something you should know," he said urgently. "A family meeting is happening at your parents' house this weekend. Uncle Greg has called it to discuss your abandonment of the family. He's trying to rally everyone against you." My stomach tightened. "Thanks for the heads up." Thomas continued, "I overheard Dad talking to your father. They're planning to guilt you into not just resuming payments, but covering all the late fees and penalties too. They're framing it as if you deliberately damaged the family legacy. The audacity is unbelievable. Are you going to this meeting?" I asked. "Yes, and so are you," Thomas replied firmly. "You need to set the record straight, and I'll back you up." I agreed, though anxiety churned in my stomach. Confronting Dad with the whole extended family present would be difficult, but maybe necessary. Saturday arrived. I dressed in my professional black pantsuit, the one that always gave me confidence in tough negotiations. I drove to my parents' house with complete financial documentation from Victor, including notarized statements and detailed calculations of lost investment opportunities. The living room fell silent as I walked in. Dad was standing by the fireplace, clearly in the middle of a speech. Aunts, uncles, and cousins were gathered around, their faces a mix of confusion and concern. Megan sat uncomfortably beside Mom on the sofa. "Louise, I'm glad you decided to join us," Dad said quickly as he recovered. "We were just discussing the vacation home situation. I'm sure you were informed." I replied evenly, placing my briefcase on the coffee table. "And I'm sure you've shared all the financial details with everyone," he added, his eyes narrowing. "We're here to talk about your refusal to meet family obligations. Interesting." I opened my briefcase and stated, "I have 5 years' worth of financial records showing that I've already met over $118,000 in family contributions. Money that apparently wasn't available for my education or housing, but was somehow free for Megan's trust fund." A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Aunt Catherine, ever so direct, cut in, "What trust fund?" I watched my father silently, waiting for him to speak, and when he didn't, I handed out copies of the summary document to everyone present. Over the last 5 years, I've paid nearly $120,000 in expenses, covering property taxes for the lake house, Megan's car payments, family vacations, and more. Meanwhile, my parents set up a $350,000 trust fund solely for my sister. The room burst into overlapping voices. My father's face turned a deep red as he thundered, "These are private family matters." "Family matters? In this family, we should treat our children equally," Uncle Pete interjected as he stood up. I hadn't expected so much support as heated debates erupted. My father's eyes met mine, and in that look I saw something new, fear. He feared that his carefully built narrative would collapse, and behind that fear lay an even deeper, unexpected respect. The meeting ended with my father storming out and my mother tearfully trailing behind him. Megan sat frozen on the couch, avoiding everyone's eyes, while the rest of the family absorbed what had been revealed. "I had no idea it was this bad," said Catherine, poring over the financial records. "Greg, you were always seen as the successful one who didn't need help." Uncle Pete shook his head. "This isn't right. The lake house has been a part of our family's memories for years. If you've been paying those taxes all this time, you should have some ownership stake." I hadn't considered that perspective. The vacation property was solely in my parents' names, even though I had invested heavily in it. "I don't want the house," I explained. "I just want acknowledgement for the imbalance." Thomas put a hand on my shoulder. "Acknowledgement isn't enough, Lise. There should be consequences." 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from my father. No apology, no admission of error, just 4 terse words. "The property taxes are due." I stared at the message, shocked at his boldness. After everything, he was still treating me like a personal ATM. That evening, I received an unexpected call from my mother, Louise. Her voice wavered. "Your father isn't handling this well. The lake house means more to him than treating his daughters equally." I asked, "Silence says it all, Mom. I've put nearly $120,000 into this family, and Dad set up a $350,000 trust for Megan without offering me anything similar. The imbalance is glaring." She admitted quietly, "I've always felt it wasn't right, but Dad makes all the financial decisions." I finished, "I understand, but it stops now." The next morning, I texted my father back with a single attachment, a photograph of the notarized financial records detailing my contributions over the past 5 years, with the total circled in red. No words were needed. The numbers spoke for themselves. An hour later, my phone rang. I expected an angry tirade from Dad, but instead, I heard Megan's shaky voice. Dad just showed me all your documentation. Is it really that much? Over $118,000. Yes, every penny is documented and verified by a forensic accountant, I confirmed. There was a long pause. I had no idea, she said finally. Dad always said you helped out here and there because you had extra money. He never mentioned you were covering major expenses while he built my trust fund. Her voice broke at the end of that sentence. For the first time, I heard genuine remorse from my sister. I don't know what to say. I feel terrible, she admitted. It's not entirely your fault. Dad created this situation, but I benefited from it. I never questioned it. I just assumed I deserved the help. Another long pause ensued, then Megan surprised me. I'm going to fix this, she declared. It's not right. Before I could ask what she meant, she hung up. The next day, I received formal documentation from my father's attorney. The property taxes on the lake house had been paid in full, along with a legally binding amendment that granted me a 25% stake in the property. Attached was a note from the lawyer explaining that Megan had insisted on using funds from her trust to cover the taxes and legal fees for the ownership transfer. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. This wasn't necessary, family helps family. I didn't reply. His message showed that he still didn't understand, or refused to recognize, the underlying unfairness of his actions. Minutes later, another text came from my mother. Your father is struggling with this, but I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I should have done the same years ago. That evening, Megan called again. I've asked Dad to split the trust fund equally between us, she said. He initially refused, but Uncle Pete and Aunt Catherine backed me up. He's meeting with his financial advisor tomorrow to finalize it. I felt a weight lift, not because of the money itself, but because it meant acknowledgement, fairness, and respect. Thank you, Megan, I said sincerely. No, she replied. Thank you for finally making us face the truth.